Did you know that fraudulently using or certifying a disabled parking placard in Minnesota can actually land you a massive $500 fine and a misdemeanor charge? Yeah, it's a pretty harsh reality, but it really underscores just how seriously the state takes its accessibility laws. Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you rely on a disabled parking certificate to navigate your everyday life, keeping it active isn't just about, ticking a bureaucratic box. It is absolutely vital for your independence and mobility. So today, we're bringing you the ultimate step-by-step guide to renewing your disabled parking placard in Minnesota, making sure you never face some unexpected, frustrating gap in your accessibility rights. Let's get into it. Okay, let's dive into this because there is a massive misconception out there that placards are strictly either temporary or permanent. Just two buckets, right? Well, actually, no. In reality, Minnesota has a highly structured system that uniquely offers 5 different certificate durations. Depending on your specific medical evaluation, you could be issued a temporary certificate for 1 to 6 months, a short-term certificate for 7 to 12 months, a long-term certificate for 13 to 71 months, a 6-year permanent certificate, or even a 3-year commercial certificate for agencies. So it's actually a highly tailored system designed to perfectly match your specific medical timeline. All right, to make sure we have a perfectly clear roadmap today, here's our agenda. First up, intro and eligibility. Second, we'll walk through the renewal process. Third, timing and deadlines. Fourth, submission and troubleshooting. And finally, number 5, wrap up and a quick disclaimer. Okay, starting with section 1, intro and eligibility. Let's look at who actually qualifies. So, renewing a disabled parking placard can feel like a bit of a chore, I know. But these placards profoundly impact your quality of life, right? They provide that vital access to public spaces. Now, there is a dangerous myth floating around that we need to bust right away. People hear the word permanent and immediately assume the paperwork is just over forever. No more forms. That is simply not true. In Minnesota, a permanent certificate is valid for 6 years. When it expires, you absolutely still have to renew it. While you might not always need a fresh doctor's signature for every permanent renewal, the state does require you to keep your file active, and you might even be selected randomly to recertify your eligibility. So don't toss out those forms just yet. So, who actually qualifies under Minnesota law? Well, the state requires you to meet specific definitions of a physically disabled person. This includes things like having a severe cardiac condition, being restricted by a respiratory disease, requiring portable oxygen, or needing a wheelchair, cane, or other assistive device to walk. Now, here is a really important note. Writing down vague symptoms, like just putting back pain or leg pain on your form, will cause massive delays. The state needs a specific medical diagnosis of the actual condition causing the disability, not just a list of the symptoms you're experiencing. Moving right along to section 2, the renewal process. Now, what's really interesting here is that this whole seemingly complex bureaucratic process literally boils down to 3 simple, totally manageable steps. Step 1, you need to get your hands on Form PS 2005. That's the Application for Disability Parking Certificate. Step 2, you must obtain your medical recertification if your specific renewal requires it. And step 3, you submit that finalized paperwork. And that's the whole shebang. So, when you actually look at Form PS 2005, you'll start right at the top half, which is the Disabled Individual section. This is where you anchor your whole application. You're going to fill in your full name, date of birth, address, and your driver's license or state ID number. And if you are renewing, pay attention here. There is a specific line asking if you've ever had a Minnesota Disability Parking Certificate before. You need to check yes and write out your previous certificate or plate number right there. Don't skip that. Then, right below that is the Health Professional Medical Statement section. This is where you hand it over to your healthcare provider. They need to check the exact boxes that define your physical disability and provide that specific, formal diagnosis we talked about earlier. And in case you're wondering who can actually authorize this, Minnesota allows licensed physicians, physician assistants, advanced practice registered nurses, and chiropractors to legally sign off on this form. Now, here is a strict rule you absolutely cannot ignore. If you have a temporary or short-term certificate and you find yourself needing an extension, it absolutely requires a newly updated medical certification. Your doctor must sign the medical statement again, clearly stating that it's an extension for a previously certified disability. You can't just call up the state and ask for a few more months. You need that fresh approval from your doctor for sure. All right, section 3, timing and deadlines. Let's make sure you don't lose your access.
You can actually choose your submission method based entirely on how much of a hurry you're in. It's pretty handy. If you mail it to St. Paul, expect a 4 to 6 week processing time. Pretty standard. If you use the MyDVS online portal, it speeds up a bit to about 2 to 4 weeks. But, and this is a great little tip, if your placard is expiring in just a few days and you're in a pinch, your absolute best bet is to go in person to a deputy registrar. By doing it in person, you can instantly walk out the door with a 90-day temporary permit to put on your dash while your actual hard placard is processed and mailed to you over the next few weeks.
So the crucial point is this. Submit your renewal well before the expiration date to avoid any gap in legal use. Your certificate is valid until the very last day of the month indicated on the placard. Once that day passes, parking in an accessible space without a valid renewed placard can result in some seriously hefty fines. Just don't wait until the last minute. It's not worth the stress. Moving into Section 4, Submission and Troubleshooting. Let's talk about avoiding common errors. You know, you'd be surprised how many applications the state of Minnesota rejects or delays simply due to completely avoidable basic errors. The absolute most frequent mistakes are leaving fields incomplete, missing signatures from either the applicant or the healthcare professional, that happens all the time, and failing to provide that specifically required medical diagnosis. To proactively save yourself a headache, just double and triple check every single box on Form PS 2005 before you hit submit or drop it in the mail. Now, what if your placard isn't expiring, but you simply lost it? Or maybe it was stolen or just got super damaged in the sun? This is a really common troubleshooting question. People often panic, thinking, oh no, do I need to schedule a brand new doctor's appointment just to get this piece of plastic replaced? Thankfully, no, that is not the case at all. It helps to understand that there is a clear difference between the renewal pathway and the replacement pathway. If your placard is expiring, you're on the renewal pathway, which, as we saw, often requires full medical recertification. But if your placard is just lost, stolen, or damaged, you take the replacement pathway. For replacement, you only need to fill out the top disabled individual section of the application. You do not need to bother your doctor to fill out their section again. Though, just a heads up, you might be asked to provide a police report if it was actually stolen. Okay, let's talk money, just so you're fully prepared. The fee structure is actually incredibly straightforward. If you are applying for or renewing a temporary or short-term certificate or getting a replacement, the state fee is just $5. Simple. If you are applying for or renewing a long-term or permanent certificate, the state fee is literally $0. It is completely free. However, just be aware that if you apply in person at a local deputy registrar office, like we mentioned, to get that immediate 90-day permit, they might charge a tiny $1 local office surcharge. So maybe bring a few spare singles just in case. And finally, Section 5, Wrap-Up and Disclaimer. And this brilliantly illustrates your streamlined action plan. Step 1, check your placard right now for its expiration date. Just go look at it. Step 2, download or go pick up Form PS 2005. Step 3, see your doctor, but only if your specific renewal duration requires an updated diagnosis. And Step 4, submit the paperwork early, picking the online, mail, or in-person route that best fits how fast you need it. Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final, absolutely critical, actionable tip. Once you get your newly renewed placard, you have to use it correctly. It is supposed to be displayed hanging from the rearview mirror only when your vehicle is parked. Actually, scratch that, let me be very clear. Driving with the placard hanging from the mirror is flat out illegal and dangerous because it obstructs your view. And remember, parking in an accessible space without displaying it properly or without eligibility can slap you with a fine of up to $200. As always, we do need to provide a quick disclaimer. While we've pulled all this information directly from current Minnesota state sources, laws, forms, and fees can and often do change over time. So always verify specific legal details directly with the Minnesota Department of Public Safety's Driver and Vehicle Services Division. That ensures you have the absolute most current, up-to-date information for your specific situation. So, are you ready to confidently renew your placard and secure your accessibility today? By following these structured steps, double-checking for those common errors, and just getting your paperwork in ahead of time, you are taking full control of your mobility rights. It's a great feeling. Thanks so much for joining us on this explainer, and we will definitely see you next time.